Hello all, welcome to the video, welcome to the channel. It's going to be the first in a series of short watch reviews on my watches I have in my collection, as my collection evolves as well. I'm doing this in no way to try and grow my channel, make any money from this. It's more just to give back to the YouTube watch community. Some of these watches don't have many reviews on, this being one of them. Some of them like this one because they're quite new, some of them because they're quite obscure. So I know myself, I like watching a lot of videos before I purchase anything. So this is your chance out there to have a look at this watch. So this is the Baltic Aquascaphe or Aquascape GMT. Not sure exactly how to pronounce it. It's quite a new watch for the brand Baltic. It's a micro brand, French brand. It's quite well known amongst watch enthusiasts these days. It's one of the market leaders, you could say, micro brands for their quite relatively original designs of what they're doing. I'm a big fan. I have been a fan for a while, but this is my first Baltic, so let's get on with it. I've got the box here, so I thought I'd do a mini unboxing. Very Rolex-esque outer box. There's the inner box underneath. I'll get this out first. Little instruction manual, nicely made. Doesn't really matter this stuff, does it? But for those who don't know how to use a GMT, quite useful. Obviously in French as well. You've probably seen my name already. There's my name. There's the date I purchased it. That's quite nice. Little touch you get at the back. Spare links. Onto the actual box. So this definitely looks like leather. Definitely doesn't smell like leather. Smells very chemically. It's rubber of some sorts, but it's really nicely put together. Nice and soft to the touch. Relatively nicely put together. Again, it doesn't matter. It's a box. Who cares? And there's the watch itself. So you'll see straight away that I opted for the orange and blue. And I opted for the beads of rice bracelet. Oh, quick wristwatch check before I forget. In honor of this GMT, I'm wearing my Monster Atlas. A lovely watch this. I'll do a review of this at a later date, probably. Back to the Baltic. Yes, so this comes as standard on a rubber strap, tropical rubber strap. At that price, I believe it's 920-ish euros, which is £815. And then with the beads of rice, it's about 80 euros extra. So whatever that is, £60, £65-ish extra, maybe a bit more than that. So I went for the beads of rice. It's my first beads of rice bracelet, actually. Part of the reason I went for it, and I'm also a bracelet guy. I feel like you should always go for the bracelet. It's easy to get cheap rubber and leather straps secondhand. So let's get this off, this cushion it comes with. Have a closer look. So there's the watch itself. A really stunning watch, as far as I'm concerned. I really like the colours on this one. So it comes also, they have three variations. The top of the bezel is always this blue, this nice dark blue. I really like the blue on it. And then the bottom, I think the options are, try and get this right, a grey, I think, and then a green, and then this orange. The orange is my favourite. I see it as sort of, to me it looks almost like a faded, and a naturally faded Pepsi bezel. Almost in the right lighting, maybe not here, it looks quite bright orange here, but in the right lighting, it's a bit dimmer, it doesn't work at all. It looks almost like a well faded vintage Pepsi bezel, which I really like, because I like the Pepsi bezels. And to me, one of the main points of a GMT is that flash of colour. GMT has to be my favourite complication, other than a simple date. So that flash of colour is very important to me. So let's go through this watch. This watch comes with start with the crystal, sapphire crystal, domed. You get some nice distortions off it. Gives it almost that acrylic crystal look, but without the drawbacks of an acrylic crystal. The bezel itself is sapphire glass coated as well, with, I'm assuming, it doesn't look aluminium, some sort of underlay. It is all loomed, fully loomed in C1 lume. Dial up close has a black glossy finish, obviously with that Aquascape word in orange and the GMT hand in orange. GMT hand itself isn't a perfect triangle, it's sort of a rounded triangle, which gives it more lume area. And then obviously a date down at the 6 o'clock, which is matched to the dial. I do like that touch, much better than if that had been a white date window. So obviously this watch is drawing some themes from the Rolex GMT. Obviously the king of GMTs, the original dive watch GMT style watch. But I think there's enough going on here that you can't really call this a homage. You know, the word homage gets used for a lot of watches these days, for copies and ones with any hint of another watch in it. It's barely a homage to me. Obviously the colours, some similarity in the dial and the indices, but then obviously you've got this 12 up here at 12 o'clock, the numerals, which I think has a very individual look to it. Don't see many watches with just one set of Arabic numerals. I do like that a lot. So the case is stainless steel. I'll get the dimensions out of the way actually. You can tell I'm new to this, can't you? I'm sort of rambling a bit. I think lug to lug is around 47 millimeters. It's a 39 millimeter diameter, so quite vintage sizings. It's, I believe, 12 millimeters thick, including the glass, so it sits nice and thin on your wrist, and a 20 mil lug width. I'll show you the screw down crown, signed with Baltic. This bezel is a thick bi-directional 24 click bezel. It's my first ever 24 click bezel. I really like it. It has a really nice action, tiny amount of play. You know, I like a bi-directional bezel. I like that this bezel is for sure been custom designed for this watch and for this GMT function. They haven't just added on the same bezel from some of their other watches, their other Aquascape models, as some other micro brands do, or some other brands do, as you might see in a bit. If I get a couple of GMTs out of here. Sorry again for the shaky camera. So, drilled lug holes. Really, you can see this brand have made this watch largely for the collectors, you know, for the enthusiasts. This isn't ever going to sell huge amounts. In fact, they only make 600 of each of these color combinations. I'll show you the case back in a minute, but I believe this is number 449 out of 600. But clearly this watch is made for enthusiasts, you know, things like these screwed lug holes, for example. So we'll move on to the bracelet. Beads of Rice bracelet. It's very thin. It does only have push pin links. There's no screwed links, but I think that's more to do with the thinness of the watch more than anything else. The clasp, maybe the cheapest feeling part of the watch, you could say, is this actual piece of the clasp here. However, I think it feels cheap because it's so thin, it's just pressed. Got lovely 7 micro adjust, plenty there. But I think it's almost an aesthetic choice to keep it this thin. Just have a pressed clasp, because when it's closed, it sits with this thin, with the bracelet as thin as it is. It sits so close and fine on the wrist. Signed with Baltic, no push pin, no push, no press or release, you know what I mean. No fold over clasp. I quite like it. I don't have another bracelet like this without either of those things. I think I would have had the choice. I would have had pushes, but I really like actually the aesthetics of it. Makes it a very clean looking clasp. The bracelet itself feels solid as a thin beads of rice bracelet can be made. The beads themselves are beautifully polished. The outside is brushed all over. Best feature of this bracelet, it has quick release. You don't even need those drilled lug holes because it has a quick release system underneath. So I'll take that off. Just 2 pins either side, easy as anything to change the strap out. But I really like this bracelet. If I had the option, I maybe would have made it a tiny bit thicker and given it screws for sure. But otherwise, it's as good a beads of rice bracelet that I've had in my hands. And whilst I have this off, I will show you the case back. So this is as good a case back as you can get on a GMT watch, really, because this is functional for the GMT complication. So it tells you obviously where you are in the world, how many hours ahead or behind other places are. They had a big issue with the original release of this watch. I believe they've sorted, you know, I only bought this last week, so it's definitely sorted in the ones you're buying from them. If you have one already, you can order new case backs because they managed to get the, I believe the city's back to front. So Paris was listed as an hour behind London, which it definitely isn't. So I'll put this back on. I'll give some overall summaries. Again, I'm sorry if it's not the best review in the world, this, but it is my first, bear with me, and I just wanted to give people a look because I believe there's not many videos, if any. I think there's a couple on this watch in this colour combination on YouTube at the moment. As I say, I'm really struggling to get this back on. There you go. So let's get this on wrist. I'll take my monitor off for the moment. So leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think of this. My first time of saying that, but let me know in the comments what you think of this, if you like it. See, I am absolutely in love with that orange colour combination myself. I think it's quite individual, but it sort of has the same sort of aesthetic as the Pepsi bezel, but a bit brighter, if you know what I mean. So we'll get this on wrist. I have around a 7-inch, just below a 7-inch wrist. 39mm diameter. Sits perfect on my wrist, as you can see. Sits nice and thin. The clasp looks fantastic. Even if some people don't like that friction clasp, it can be difficult to get off, but it's just loosening up for me, I believe, at the moment. So yeah, that is the Baltic Aquascaphe GMT. Double dome sapphire glass it is. I'm just trying to work out if I've missed anything. Oh, I haven't talked about the movement. Briefly, the movement is a Swiss movement. It's Baltic's first Swiss movement. It's a Soprod, which is my first Soprod movement. I don't know anything about movements, the truth. It's a Soprod C125 GMT. 40 something odd power reserve, hour power reserve. Yeah, it seems, I don't know anything about movements is the truth, other than looking at the stats, and when I put this on a time grapher, it's running within a second a day. So this one in particular, running really, really well. Water resistance, the other thing I haven't mentioned. It's only 10 atmospheres, so it's not a real dive watch, but it's not, no one was thinking this is a real dive watch by any means. You know, with a GMT bezel, it hasn't got a dive time bezel, so it's pretty useless as a dive watch, especially seeing as it has a 24 at the top here instead of an arrow. Makes timing with it a little more difficult. Screw down crown. I'll just show you the positions, even though most, I'm sure, know how this works. First position, once you've screwed it out, is winding. Second position is date and the GMT. Turn it down for the date, turn it up for the GMT hand. And third position will hack, hand wind, and change the time. This crown actually is very thick, very big crown, easy to hold, very easy to grip, and it comes a long way out from the case, especially in that position, which I actually really like. It's very easy to screw in. It seems to screw in for a long time. You seem to be screwing and screwing and screwing. So, what would I change? Any reservations? Anything I'd change about this watch? Very little, is the truth. I've enjoyed it even more than I thought I would. I bought this on a bit of a whim as a replacement or as competition for another watch I'm going to show you in a minute. Being very picky, when you fully screw in the crown, the bees at a slightly annoying angle. That's very, very picky. That does annoy me a little bit. I would make the bracelet a little thicker. I think they're going for that skin diver type watch feel with this, which is why they've made it so thin. It's really nice, but I would make it a little thicker and maybe put screws in if I could. Other than that, I really wouldn't change much. I won't give you a lume shot, but I can tell you the lume's pretty good. Maybe I'll put a lume shot in at the end, actually, now I say that. You have to excuse me running and closing the curtains because I'm not going to cut this video. And so finally, I'm just going to bring out a couple other watches to compare this to. At some point I'm going to do this video. I'm going to compare all three of these because I believe these really are the three main watches in competition for the best GMT watch you can get. Dive style GMT watch under 1,000, particularly from micro brands anyway. So here we've got the Laurier Hyperion GMT and the Steinhardt Ocean 39 GMT. Lots of similarities between them. Let me just put this in the case with the other two, see them all side by side. Obviously lots of similarities between them, all taking cues from the Rolex GMT. You know, these two more than the Baltic, really. The Baltic has more of its own style, I will say, than the other two. All of them with 6 o'clock dates, all of them roughly between 600 and 800 pounds ish, roughly. So they're all in competition, so at some point I'll do a video on them. But just as a sneak preview, that's my favorite. Okay, so I'm going to run and do a quick lume shot. Excuse the sound of curtains closing. You see, you don't see this on the Urban Gentry, do you? I'll just find my torch. Here we go. So a quick lume shot. Leave these two here so you can compare. So this is C1 Super Luminova or Luminova. Shines lovely there. Next to it we've got the Steinhardt with the blue lume and the Laurier, arguably with the worst lume of the lot. The Laurier though, which has a nice combination of blue and green coloured lume, so I'll leave those three next to each other. It's the final shot. Okay, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of it. If you love it as much as I do, I am a big fan of this watch and of Baltic in general, I must say. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you in the next one.